Hi, I'm Dana, and today I really wanted to talk about what comes after your autism diagnosis, because it's not something that I could find anything about when I was about to get my diagnosis, and really wanted to know how other people felt and what support there was and everything like that after your autism diagnosis, and I didn't find anything, and I still haven't seen anything. So I'm hoping now that I've sort of like been through the motions of getting my diagnosis and coming to terms with it and figuring it all out, I can maybe be the person that I needed to someone else, basically. I want to start off by just talking about how I felt after my autism diagnosis, because I feel like it's probably how most of us feel, but again, I haven't seen people talking about it. So stepping out of like the building where I had the assessment and found out that I was like definitely medically 100% autistic, I didn't really feel anything. Like, I was sort of just in shock, even though I didn't go as far as like self-diagnose, because I'm a very anxious person and very unsure, so I didn't go that far personally, although if you do, entirely valid. But I was pretty sure I was autistic, you know, like I was pretty much like, I'm going for this diagnosis because it's what I think I have. And if they'd told me that I wasn't autistic, I probably would have looked for a second opinion. I think I was certain enough to that degree, but not enough to self-diagnose. And yet, even with that certainty, I really like didn't know how to feel once I knew for sure. And it was a few days afterwards that I'd sort of fully processed like, oh, I'm autistic. And I started to feel very, very depressed. Now, this should not be how I felt. It's really a shame that I felt that way. But I felt like it was almost a confirmation of like the struggles and the things that I've had to deal with in life were going to continue, you know? Like, when you have depression and anxiety, you're constantly told like, oh, well, there's light at the end of the tunnel, it's going to get better, everything's going to be okay, this is temporary. So to be told like, oh, it's not anxiety and depression, you're autistic and this is a part of who you are and who you will always be, it felt like being told I was going to be depressed and anxious forever. You've gone through life not being diagnosed and life has been really, really difficult, and then you're told, well, this is why it's been difficult and you're going to have it for the rest of your life. It feels a certain way. And I was pretty just depressed and anxious that I was going to be depressed forever for a solid few, I want to say probably 2 or 3 months. I was going to say a few weeks, but it wasn't. It was a good long while. And then I found the hashtag actually autistic on Twitter. I don't particularly always enjoy interacting with people on Twitter and Instagram and things. I get very anxious and sort of overwhelmed having to like reply to people, especially if it's like DMs and stuff. Like, I will get to it, I enjoy the actual socialising, but the anxiety around it's still very difficult. So I mostly just read lots and lots of big long Twitter threads from people. I'll link some of the Twitter accounts I like most down below, and the people that I like the most are in the like Twitter autism community. But I just read loads and loads of those and followed loads and loads of autistic people. And that was when I could sort of like pull myself up a bit, because it was much easier looking at other autistic people and seeing their achievements and the things that they do well than it is to see my own. And I'm sure that goes for most of us. It's easier to look at someone else and go, oh my God, they're incredible, than it is to look at yourself and be like, oh, I'm brilliant. But when you're seeing lots and lots and lots of autistic people and hearing lots about their experiences and their life and their achievements, it stops being that autism's this like horrible thing that I'm stuck with, and starts being that it's a thing that I live with. It's got its positives, it's got its massive negatives, and it's okay, you know? I'm not someone that sees autism as a superpower, because frankly my life would be significantly easier if I wasn't autistic, and that's just the fact of things. And that's why I don't necessarily always see it as a positive. I see parts of my autism as a positive, I see myself as a positive, but I don't necessarily see being autistic for me as something positive, is what I'm saying here. But I did feel a lot better about it seeing other people who were proud of being autistic, who took pride in that part of themselves, you know? And I wouldn't say that I'm not proud of being autistic, but I wouldn't really say I'm proud of it either, you know? It's a bit like saying I'm proud I'm white. It's like, no, it's just a thing that I am. It doesn't really matter either way. I just realised how that sounded. And it's the only analogy I can think of, so I'm keeping it. You know, It's just a thing about me is what I'm saying. I don't personally take any pride or shame in it. It's just part of who I am. But I would not have been able to get to that point had I not seen all of these people who were proud to be autistic. And I still love that for them. You know, I'm really, really glad that you're proud of that part of who you are. It's brilliant. I'm just not there. Don't know if I ever will be. It's just not for me right now. But I'm glad it's for you. And once you've received your own diagnosis, if you have, or if you're intending to get there, or if you've been there forever, I would say the number one most important thing is to get community-based support like that. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be like messaging people if you don't want to, although there's lots of friendly autistic people online. Message them if you want to, talk to them. You can talk to me, I will reply to you eventually. But just being able to see yourself in others and see them like achieve and live life and be happy people. And of course we all still talk about our struggles, but that just means you get to relate to them more. You get to see, oh, they're not this like super autistic person that can just do everything and is brilliant. They still struggle with like X, Y, Z like I do, or this and this and this, which I don't struggle with. You know, it's really nice to see the diversity that comes along with being autistic, especially being a girl who was diagnosed with autism. We so often see like the typical lad that's like really into trains or whatever. And it was just really nice to see that like I'm not the outlier here. I'm not like the one girl that doesn't like aeroplanes or something that's been diagnosed autistic. There's just loads and loads and loads of us, and we're all very, very different, despite all having a base part of ourselves that is technically the same because we're autistic. Now, of course, you've received an actual diagnosis like medically, so you would expect there to be some degree of medical based support. I expected there to be, and there isn't. At the end of my autism assessment, the lovely man that diagnosed me, he was great. I'm not shitting on him in the slightest. He was brilliant. But he gave me an envelope of basically like all the support he could provide me with, which was 2 support groups way too far out from where I live. And I did speak to both of them, and they were both like, oh, well, can't you get your mum or dad to drive you? And it's like, my dad's dead. And my mum's a human being with her own life. She doesn't have time once every week to drive me like 40 minutes away, wait in the car for an hour while I like go and chat, and then drive me home again. Like, it's just ridiculous to expect that. And I'm way too anxious to be getting... Ringo, what's the matter? Sorry, I had a whole thing with one of my cats, but we're back now. And I was talking about support provided after diagnosis. Oh, I hate starting videos and having to come back. It feels like starting again, and it's really tough. It's really not easy. I need to check I'm actually recording. The in-person support groups were completely out of the question for me. They're not near enough, you know. And if I lived 30 minutes down the road, it would have probably been great, but I don't. So they weren't something I could attend. So the other things in the envelope of information I was given was basically just links to websites explaining what autism is, I assume for parents, because it was very much like, when your child's been diagnosed with autism, it can be a real shock. I'm just like, is it though? It was just very condescending and patronising. And I was just like, should I send this to me mum to tell me about later? Like, it's for kids, man. One of the only remotely useful links was to a Facebook group that's for autistic adults in Merseyside. And I did join that, and I've had a few little interactions on it, but honestly, it frustrates me because obviously it's meant for autistic adults in my area. And it's a 50-50 mix of if you're going to get to actually speak to an autistic adult or someone's parent speaking on behalf of a 25-year-old who has their own Facebook account and could be on that group if they wanted to and clearly doesn't want to, so their mother's just interjecting for them. There's a lot of damn parents on it, and it really grates on my nerves, basically. I want to be able to interact with other people that are like me, not parents of people that are like me, you know. If I wanted to interact with an autism mum, I'd speak to my own mother. And I frankly just think it's really rude that these parents are speaking on behalf of their kid who can speak. Like, these are people who are posting memes and stuff on their Facebook accounts, you know, they're fine, they're just autistic. It's, why are you speaking for your 27-year-old son, Karen? But that's one of the things that annoys me most in general when speaking or attempting to speak to other autistic people, the amount of people's parents you end up talking to. And that was all of the professional support I was given. That was it. My diagnosis was also sent to my GP, which I suppose was kind of support because then at least they're aware, but they don't seem to actually give a crap, so it was kind of pointless. I'm not sure what I expected in the way of support, to be honest. My older brother's autistic, and when he was younger, and I think up until he was probably around my age now, he had a social worker that helped him with a lot of things. You know, like if he didn't know how to get a bank account, if he didn't know when to do this or do that or do this bill or whatever, he had a social worker who'd explain it to him. And I've never been offered, heard about being able to gain that kind of support. And I don't think it's really the kind of support that I need, but I kind of need something because I have no idea how to function as an adult. Like, I don't know how to function as a person. I haven't done a real job for more than 3 days at a time. The last job I did have, I got completely fucked over by the boss and still haven't been paid. So I could really do with some help, please. But there's just nothing there. Or at least nothing that I can find. And I've seen other autistic people rant online about, oh, people say there's like no support for autistic people, but you can actually get loads. And I'm like, well, it's real funny how you're not naming any of the support I can supposedly access because I can't find any of it. I haven't been offered any of it. Where is it? And, you know, I understand that there's people whose autism requires a much more support than mine does. I understand that there's people with all sorts of disability who require a significant amount more support and resources than I do, and they absolutely deserve to be getting them. But if I need help, I think I deserve to get it too, you know? It's very easy for me as an autistic person to look like I'm managing and doing quite well, and under the surface it's a fucking mess, okay? Whenever I've had to reach out for help regarding my anxiety or autism or anything, I'm almost not believed because people think that I'm doing really well. People really seem to think I've got my shit together, and it's completely false. I work really hard to look like I have my shit together. And if I worked as hard on actually having my shit together, I probably actually would. But it's kind of one or the other. And I wouldn't have my shit together while I was getting it together, so I just pretend I have my shit together and it's a failure. It's an absolute failure. It's terrible. I'm laughing because it's a laugh or cry situation. I find life horrendously difficult. I have no idea how to get any sort of help to do anything. And if it weren't for the fact that me and my partner work as a exceptionally good team, I don't know how I would survive, quite frankly, in this world as an autistic person. I don't know how I would survive without my boyfriend, you know, and call it codependency if you want, but we are one hell of a damn team. And the places that I fail and he picks up, I pick up the places that he can't do so well, and that works for us. But you can't just get a boyfriend, you know? If other people that are autistic require the same sort of support as I do, where are they meant to get it? Where do we get it from? It's not there, and it's not fair. But we are lucky in that the autistic community, in my experience, is very welcoming and very kind. You've got to find the right people. There's assholes everywhere. But for the most part, I've been massively comforted and helped and supported by the autism community online. And I think I'd probably be a lot more sad if I hadn't been. You know, I don't think I'd be having as good a time in life as I am without them. But there should be better support. So I'm gonna wrap up this video by telling you how I feel about my autism now a little bit more. And it's a tough one because in some ways I really don't care. I very much just see it as part of who I am, and that's that. But in other ways, I'm incredibly grateful to have gotten my diagnosis. It explained so much. As sad as it made me at points and as worried as it made me at points, it was a gigantic relief to be able to say, like, oh, I'm not weird, I'm not broken, I'm not a freak, I'm not bizarre, I'm not all of these things people have told me I am. I'm autistic. It's just a huge relief. Every horrible social situation that I leave feeling like an idiot, I can say to myself, it's not that you're an idiot, it's that you're autistic, you don't have the social skills to cope in that specific situation. And if that person doesn't understand, then that's their damn issue. You know, I'm still going to repeat that conversation in my head for the next 3 years and feel incredibly anxious. But I know that it's because of the autism in me. I know it's because I'm autistic. It's not a failure of me as a person. It's just part of who I am. And that's a gigantic relief. It's just such an explanation for so many things. And I'm incredibly glad that I got that diagnosis, you know, even though I had those few months that were really wobbly and I felt really uncertain of who I was and if I'd done the right thing, and at points even questioned my diagnosis even though I'd been so sure beforehand that I was autistic. And it was good for me. It was something that's provided me with relief and comfort and understanding of myself. And I'm really glad I got it, you know? Like, I'm not saying like I'm glad I got an autism diagnosis. I'm saying that I'm glad I got a diagnosis that fits with how I felt and who I am and what I am, I suppose. You know? Any diagnosis that was right would have been something I was happy for, and the right one happened to be autism, is what I'm saying. So, yeah. I'm never gonna be... Like I say, I can't say I'm proud to be autistic, but I'm proud to be able to be myself and understand myself that bit more by knowing that I'm autistic, I think. You know, it's just not something I any longer view as a bad thing, I think, is what I'm trying to say. It's not something that I'm overjoyed by, but I definitely don't see it as a negative anymore. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing that explained a lot and made me feel better after a while. So yeah, I think I've said everything I wanted to say, hopefully. So I'm gonna sign off here. If you've watched this long, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. I've got 100 subscribers now, which is, I've never had 100 subscribers before. And I know it's nothing in the grand scheme of things, but I've got 100 subscribers, guys. If you want to make that like 101 or 102, you know what to do. And in the meantime, fucking hell, that was terrible. I am sorry, like, if you watched this long just to be given that, like, shit, man. But thank you for watching. Please do subscribe if you'd like to see more. And I hope you have a really nice day.